understanding what are the primary problems or challenges that they face that your product solves is super key. So figure out what's the story around that. How do you convey that?
So if you take somebody who is 20 to 30, they have a different challenges and they have a different standing in their life than when it's somebody in the mid 40. And also the second one is this will give you the idea. Is it like a Gen Z? Welcome to another episode of the Alchemy of Success Coffee Break.
I'm Pedro.
And I'm Anna. And today we decided to make an extension from our fourth episode from the series around shifting from employee to an entrepreneur. And that was the topic around definition of your client niche. And what we want to give you today is a very synthesized and very targeted questions that you can take them, sit down, by yourself if you're a solopreneur or starting, or even if you think to start your business with more people, sit with your whole team and really think about the ideal client, the so-called avatar that you want to help by providing your products and services. So we made a list of questions that we ourselves implemented also for our other companies. And we're going to share this question with you. So don't forget to take note, to write it down, or to pause and make a screenshot. Do it the way you are. If you're looking at YouTube, you're going to see also the question displayed or in the video. If you're listening, then definitely, pause or maybe jump in YouTube so you can see it more visually. And we're not just going to give you the questions, but also give you little ideas how this question should be answered. So we prepared a list and also the areas. Pedro will start with the first series of the question and explain to you. Like I said, don't forget to take a pen and a notebook or to take a screenshot. So have fun with it. We definitely had fun by creating our avatar.
So thank you, Annie. So the first one is, what is the ideal client's age range? So that's really important. Why? Because you have to just look at it. Is it 25 to 30, 35 to 45? Where are they going to be residing? What kind of people are they? So this is one of the most important ones, which is why we start with this. What is the market going to be targeting? So the second one is, fine. Now that you identify the age range, where do they live? Do they live in an urban city? Do they live in a country? I mean, where do they reside? Because you have to hone in the message to that type of individual that lives in that environment, in that setting. The next question is, what is their gender? If possible, of course. Nowadays, it's very sensitive, but it's really understanding, is it a male or female? Are we targeting, what is the audience that we're targeting? So that's really important to understand who is our primary customer. And Annie, go ahead and do the next. Yeah.
Exactly. Before I dive in the one, maybe to tell you why it's important the age of the client is, because when you look psychologically, every person to different phases in their life. So if you take somebody who is 20 to 30, they have a different challenges and they have a different standing in their life than when it's somebody in the mid 40. And also the second one is, this will give you the idea. Is it like a Gen Z? Is it a millennial? So also this kind of information that you can grab based on the age you define, they have a different way of how they make a decision, how they buy products, how they relate to services. So that's why is the age really core. And the gender is more about, don't see it just like female and male, but see it maybe the traits that your service or product is supporting there. If you give people more time, maybe you speak more to the feminine part. So that's why your avatar will have more of a looking to nurture or to buy products that supports the feminine part in them. So don't see it just as a gender, but also as the traits connected to that. The second areas of question is around the occupation and the income of your avatar. So the first question is, what is the profession of your avatar and in what industry they work? Okay. Or if you're cross industry, maybe there is a layer, if it's the marketing guy or the financial lady or whatever, could be like a slide of this industry where they are. That's very important. And also, it's what is their approximate income level. And this is very important because this will give you an idea what is their purchasing power on the one side. Second, maybe what kind of brands, what kind of spending power not only they have, but what kind of pricing your product can be placed at. Because imagine if somebody has a 100K a year income, will have a completely different investment in your products and services power than when they are like a million. Just an idea. So that's why it's very important. And the next area will be covered by Pedro.
And the next area is education and background. So the reason this is super important is obviously we have different interests depending on the level of education that you have. There's certain things that we're attracted to. There's certain words that we resonate with. There's certain things that we're used to, how we speak, how we connect, how we digest information. It's different from depending on where you are. So that's why that one's a really important one. So the question there is, what level of education have they completed? Are we talking about that somebody just has a high school degree versus someone that has a master's or a doctorate? Those are two different types of people that are going to be looking at different types of sources, and how we communicate with them might be different. How we approach them, the messaging around that, one might be more in tune with the very highly intellectual side, the very factual side, where the other one wants to be more of a story told to them. They want to connect with the emotion. They want to connect with the excitement, while others want to connect with the facts. So it depends on exactly where have they gone and how much have they achieved. And the second question within that is, what is their personal and professional background? Once again, that's tied to the education level. So the personal and professional background is, for example, sometimes you have people that, only have a high school degree. Sometimes they would not be sort of the VP of marketing or the CFO of a large organization, because it requires certain certifications, certain degrees, a certain level of education to achieve certain roles. So understanding how far they've gone in their education also usually tells you as a barometer of what position they would actually have. Okay, so that is really determines the professional background, which means, what platforms do I use? Is it LinkedIn or is it Instagram? Is it TikTok or is it or YouTube? So it depends on exactly what you're trying to achieve and how much you are able to communicate with what they're resonating with, what they have experience in.
Very good. Next area, lifestyle and interest. So this, depending on your product and services, can be more or less important, especially if of course, your products or services is around lifestyle, around their hobbies. This will be kind of even more primer to you. If it's more, your product or services is more directed to their professional background, still is interesting, because in your communication or having the knowledge about how they want to spend their free time, you can still use it, how your product or services can free them time, give them time back or whatsoever. So increase the level of lifestyle, increase the time that they can spend on their interests and so on. So the first question is, what are their primary hobbies and interests, And this could be also not just maybe hiking or making sport, meeting with people, but could be also like spending time with family, cooking, whatever, So that is something that you need to identify. And the second question in this direction is, how do they spend their free time? Because that will give you also a lot of ideas, again, connected to, depending your products or services, could be a primary or secondary importance of this question, but yet to understand what is that they really enjoy doing it, because there is also people as an employee, as an entrepreneur, maybe in their free time, they just love to grow their company, right? There is also this kind of people. So definitely have a look into this area.
And the next topic is buying behavior and feelings. This is one of the biggest motivators to purchase a product or a service. Why? Because what is the pattern of what I'm used to? What do I connect with? And how do I emotionally connect to that product or service? Because that, if you build a story around it, even if they're facts, even if we're going after the doctorate, the PhD people, the doctors of the world, right? But what is the story? What is the feeling we're trying to generate? So the first question there is, how do they feel about purchasing products or services like yours? What is the emotion you're trying to convey? Because if you try to understand the emotion, it will lead you to how you're going to market and brand yourself. Is it really pure excitement? Maybe you have a commercial of somebody jumping off a cliff, right? It's an exciting product, something you want to do that's so exhilarating. Or is it really more methodical? You have people playing chess, perhaps, right? Something that's very methodical in its way and analytical in that sense. So it really depends on what are you trying to elicit as far as the feeling of when they buy your products or services. Okay. And the other thing is, how often do they buy products or services in your industry? That's super important because that's dictates the buying behaviors. What is the frequency of it? For example, if your product is basically something that is commonly used, it's like a commodity, then the frequency be very, very, very high. But if it's not, if it's something that might be long term, then the frequency is less than that. So understanding that cycle allows you to understand how you're going to pitch it, but also understands the revenue cycle, when the revenue is going to come in and when the revenue is not. So it makes you understand exactly the ebb and flows of your P&L as well. So it's all sort of tied together, and as also part of your branding, of course. So that's another important question you should be asking yourself.
Yeah. And like Pedro said, that is actually the customer lifetime value that you can calculate out of this, and then you can see, okay, how you can stand up in comparisons to your competition and so ever. Or maybe when you are thinking about whether to start to deliver this kind of products or this kind of products, so depending, maybe you're like multi-talent, willing to go in the other direction. So next area, values and motivation. Fact tells, story sells. And why this is true? Because the stories are what actually touch to the value, to the core value of your avatar, and to their motivation. Are they scared? So are they fear motivated? Are they excitement motivated? So there is a different type of personality. And that's important to know what motivates your avatar to buy your product or services, or to at least to look for this. So the first question is, what core values do they hold that align with your brand and products? Because as we spoke in the 5th episode, and we were talking about branding, is like branding is your reputation. That means the more your brand represent the same or at least similar values as your potential client, more probable will they be willing to buy from you, even if they don't know you. Okay, so that's very important. And of course, the second question is, what motivates your avatar to seek out solution in your industry? So again, is it excitement? Is it fear? Is it curiosity or whatsoever? So what is their buying motivation? Why they are looking for your potential solution for your product whatsoever? So very, very important area definitely to emphasize here. And as Pedro said, this will be also helping you further down the line when you create your marketing strategy, communication strategy, so you know how to speak to your avatar.
Absolutely. And the next one is challenges and pain points. Hyper important, because when you're selling something, whatever it is, a product or a service, you need to understand, what are you solving? People connect to the solutions. How are you adding value to my life with your product or service? So to understand the core pain point that you need to address, the challenge that you need to help them in their lives, whatever that is the key to success, because you're going to be addressing them, and it's going to be hyper targeted. As we spoke in our last episode, the niche they're going to go after, that niche has a similar pain point that you're trying to help them resolve. So understanding what are the primary problems or challenges that they face that your product solves is super key, super key. So figure out what's the story around that. How do you convey that value? How do you convey the efficacy of what you're trying to build? And when they connect to that, then they're going to be really interested. So you're going to be able to accelerate your sales cycle because you're going to take them from cold leads to very warm and very hot, ready to buy leads. Understanding that part of it. Then what specific fears or concerns do they have about purchasing this type of product? So once again, if you alleviate those fears and concerns, you make the selling process a lot easier, a lot more smooth and more relatable. So your marketing message becomes that. It's a warm, inviting, introductory to your price, to your product or offer. So that it all ties together by you understanding the core issues that you're trying to solve with what you're servicing. So that all sort of wraps together, and that's why it's super important.
Yeah, very good. Actually, with the last question, I really like it. It can, when you understand the fear and the concerns, you can actually put it in your message, giving exactly the answer to the possible question they might have as a concern towards purchasing the products. Give you an example. I have a shaver that is a vegan, and there is a lot of people nowadays looking for vegan products, right? So they prefer to invest more money to pay more for this. So the company was really emphasizing on this that is vegan and also that is less waste and more sustainable, whatever. So that is their target line. They don't want to try to get everybody who is looking for a shaver, but they look for the people who are focused on this direction. And they give this answer immediately in their marketing strategy. So next area, goals and aspiration. Because on the one side, your avatar will have the fears, but on the other side, of course, they always want to grow. So the most important question in this area is, what are their short-term and long-term goals related to using your product? And why it's important is to understand, depending again, what is your product or what is your service. When you understand this, you can use it to increase the customer lifetime value. You can understand how you can, with the time, when you grow your company, expand your product suite or adjust your services or make cross-selling, upselling, and whatever. When you understand that's the short term, so I can bring you from this step to this step with my product or services, but long term, by using us, you can go actually here. So you can have this two communication, and maybe you're going to grab some clients in this direction and some will be more about the long-term vision. So definitely also very important.
Yes. And then you go into the decision-making process, which is how do they make decisions and who or what influences their choices. So if you understand this part of it, then you would understand exactly how you target that message within that process and who can actually be a champion of your product or service. Because if there's somebody out there you're able to sort of collaborate with, that sort of signifies or resembles or represents what you're trying to sell, that's an easier connection, right? Because you're going to be able to push them along that process when they're going to go to be able to say, yes, I want to buy your product or service. So it's understanding what do they do, when do they feel connected to the messaging, and at what stage, at what point does it really attract them to make that next step towards that purchasing power, okay, the purchasing process. So it's really important to understand that because it also helps you with your marketing on who might be the right people to help you sell your product.
Exactly. And maybe also how to see the last part of the question, what influenced their choice, could be also, imagine you have a product or service for children. So it's not the child who will be buying your product, but it's actually the parents. So that
Excellent
means
point.
the message need to be directed to the parents, of course, adding the value to the child. Or if you're selling something, like we say, it's like course, personal development course, whatsoever. So maybe it's targeted to the staying at home moms, give an example, but maybe the influence of the choice will be made from their husband. They'll be the one. So that means you need to understand what is the dynamic, the ecosystem dynamic around your avatar and how they, what are the direct influences on making this choice. So that is also an important point. Next, of course, all the other points that Pedro said there. Last but not least, preferred communication. nowadays we get overwhelmed with all these channels and ways of, okay, do I do my own website? Do I go on LinkedIn? Do I go on TikTok? Do I go and whatsoever? So again, when you go back through all the other questions and you identify what's your avatar, you most probably have already a sense where you're gonna meet this avatar. Is it the TikTok or is it the LinkedIn person? Is it the community person that you maybe can look in some community platform? Or is it this, I prefer to stay alone person, right? So that means based on all the other information from you should identify what platform do your avatar primarily use to research for the products, for the services, so to make the purchase. Is it Google, like a searching engine? Is it like review sites? Is it important for your avatars to have these reviews? Social media, all this kind of stuff need to be taken into account, because when we go to the topics around marketing, you need to be very smart nowadays in not getting too overwhelmed, but also where you invest your marketing dollars or euros or what kind of currency you are at. So you need to be very smart at what platform you're going to spend your marketing money, because you don't want to target somebody who is most probably on LinkedIn by paying ads on Facebook, right? So that's why very important part. I hope this was valuable for you. Definitely go back if you didn't do it, write down the question, and really take time. Don't try to rush over the questions if you don't have immediately the answers. Maybe take you like 1, 2, 3 hours. Make space for this, because this is maybe one of the core pillars when starting putting your investment in, bringing the services outside, bringing the products, marketing, whatever. Because if you don't understand who is your avatar, you're going to try to get everybody, and at the end you won't get anybody, and also the pricing that you can put based on this, we're going to talk also in later episode around this, it cannot be so high because it's not so specific. So with all this said, thank you so much. Have an excited week ahead, and see you in the next episode.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Click on one of the videos below and don't forget to like and subscribe.